Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and Timothy's showing you 5 budget decks that you can pick up for $30 or less. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. So let's go ahead and get straight on into this. So Yu-Gi-Oh can be extremely expensive, but I'm actually here to help with that today because I have a bunch of really good options for you guys that can actually contend with the meta. And some of these decks are actually some of my favorite decks of all time for this list. I'm really excited to show you guys all of these because they're actually full decks, not just cores of decks, but actually full decks with full extra decks that you can pick up for $30 or less and carry them to a locals and be able to actually compete. Some of them will be able to compete with the meta and they're really fun to be able to play. So for our first deck, let's go ahead and check it out, and it's actually going to be Black Wings, which is my favorite deck of all time. So we're going to go over a quick profile of each one of these decks to show you guys what the deck kind of does and how it kind of functions. So Black Wings are a really interesting deck that focus around activating Black Whirlwind as quickly as possible and then summoning out a Blackwing monster to your side of the field like a copy of Simoon to be able to add another Blackwing from your deck to your hand while also summoning out awesome boss monsters like Blackwing Assault Dragon. This deck also has its very own towers in the form of Blackwing Full Armor Master that's unaffected by everything. The only way your opponent's going to get through this card is by attacking through it. Some of the budget staple options that I've included in this deck for you guys are cards like Book of Moon that was reprinted recently that's only about 5 cents. Cards like DD Crow, which are just a good option for hand traps. Dark Ruler No More, and even Evenly Matched. Evenly Matched is about $1 a piece, but it's still really budget for this particular deck. Same thing for Ghost Mourner. Ghost Mourner was about 75 cents when I checked it out the last time. And so this card is just a really good hand trap that you can use for this deck. But basically the focus of the deck is, like I said, to be able to use your copy of Simoon as your 1-card combo, to be able to go into all of your really good plays, to go in for your copy of your Blackwing Assault Dragon. And this deck can actually establish 3 copies of Blackwing Assault Dragon out on your side of the field to be able to burn for 700 points of damage every time your opponent activates a monster effect, which is actually really good. Plus, this card also has a great ability that lets you tribute it when it has 4 counters on it to be able to basically destroy all cards on the field. But if you have a black feather counter on the field, you can actually remove a black feather counter to protect your cards, which is pretty cool about this card. I really like playing Blackwings. It's amazing to be able to just swarm the board with all sorts of really cool synchros, but I feel like the board breaker strategy is really good for the budget version of this deck because you can play cards like Evenly and Dark Ruler that are actually very cheap to be able to pick up because they've both been recently reprinted, with Evenly Match even being reprinted in a structure deck, which makes it really budget to be able to play. For our next deck, guys, we have Trap Tricks. Trap Tricks is a great control-based strategy that focuses around summoning out multiple XZ monsters out to your side of the field and basically focuses around the card Trap Trick Sarah to be able to use this card's 2 powerful effects that if a normal trap card is activated, you can special summon a Trap Trick monster from your deck with a different name than the cards that you control, or if your other Trap Trick monster effect is activated, you can set a whole normal trap card directly from your deck. This deck even got a structure deck, making it really budget to be able to pick up. You don't actually have to buy the structure deck to be able to play this deck, because a lot of the singles for this deck is really cheap to be able to pick up, but Evenly Match was reprinted in the Trap Trick structure deck, making it a good option. It would exceed the $30 to be able to pick up the structure deck, so you can just pick up the cards individually as singles to be able to build this deck, because a lot of them are a quarter or less. Some of them are even 5 cents and less, which is insane. But this deck is really reactive to your opponent to be able to activate cards like Grave Trap Hole to stop your opponent's hand traps, or cards that activate in the graveyard. You can use Trap Trick Holtia to be able to summon out to your side of the field to be able to get a trap monster under Redoer, so Redoer gets its bonus ability to place 1 face-up card your opponent controls on top of the deck, and also banishes itself during the end phase if you detach a monster from it as well as a trap, which is just really cool to be able to do. But this deck really focuses around like normal summoning out your copy of Marmelia to your side of the field, searching out your copy of Holtia, and then link summoning into Sarah. That's a link 1, and then going in for the Holtia play to be able to use your effect of Sarah to keep going for more plays. This deck is really fun to be able to play. I really like it. It's a deck that you can easily carry to locals and be able to compete. I've even seen this deck do really well in a regional level, which was insane, and it's really fun. This deck is really timeless, and I feel like overall it's a fantastic deck to be able to pick up if you're looking for a budget deck, because the majority of the stuff in this deck is actually very, very budget to be able to play, which is really, really nice. So for the next deck, guys, we actually have Ninjas. Ninjas is one of my favorite decks. If you guys have ever seen me live stream Master Duel, you guys know I play Ninjas like crazy. Ninjas are super fun to be able to play because they focus around reacting to your opponent, kind of like Trap Tricks, but this is actually a fusion-based strategy where the Trap Tricks deck is an XZ-based strategy, with the deck focusing around summoning out its ace boss monster, Mizan the Battle Ninja, to your side of the field, or OTKing your opponent with Boral Sword Dragon, which also was just reprinted, giving you a really good option for a boss monster because you actually turn this card into a ninja monster by using the ninjutsu art Iron Tool, which is a great card to turn your copy of Boral Sword into a ninja monster, because this card turns into a ninja monster. I also have combos on the channel for you guys if you want to check that out for this particular deck. I have 3 combos that you need to know to play ninjas, and they work with this build as well, which is really nice because the core of the deck is super cheap because all of the ninja monsters have been reprinted into the ground, which is really nice for us because a lot of the cards are just super budget. Like Ninja Grandmaster Hanzo is reprinted in OTS pack, Saizo is reprinted in an OTS pack. All of the ninjas usually were printed as supers or as commons. Mizan or Mitsu, excuse me, was actually reprinted as a rare in a 10. And then cards like Book of Moon and Book of Eclipse as staple options were both just reprinted recently, making it really easy to be able to play these cards, which is really nice. Plus, your copies of Book of Eclipse and Book of Moon work really well in this deck with your copy of Dancing Leaves, because Dancing Leaves has the ability that you can activate this card by targeting a ninja monster or a face-down defensive monster on the field and tributing it, meaning you can actually tribute your opponent's monsters that were flipped face down by the effect of Book of Moon or Book of Eclipse if they have a set monster on the field. So you don't even have to give up your ninjas. You can actually use this almost like a kaiju-like effect, which is really cool. Another budget option for you guys is Droll and Lockbird. This card was printed in the Rarity Collection 2 recently, so it's very cheap to be able to pick up. It's about 50 cents to a quarter to be able to pick this card up, which is really nice to be able to get this card. Cards like Even the Match, even the Playing Field, to make it super easy to be able to go in and just basically swarm the board, but your copies of Ninjas monsters can actually attack directly when you have your copy of Mizan on your side of the field, and you don't even have to use Polymerization to go in for your Yaganamoru or your copy of Mizan, because both of these cards just require you to tribute the monsters on your side of the field that are different types of ninja monsters to make either of these boss monsters out on your side of the field. This one banishes monsters, this one lets your ninjas attack directly, and if your opponent activates anything at all, quick effect, you get to special summon a ninja from the deck, which is nice to be able to summon out the exact one that you want. But this deck is super fun to be able to play. Again, if you guys have not checked out me streaming, you definitely should, because I play this deck all the time on stream. And more budget options for you guys are cards like Phoenix, Cerberus, Nightmare Unicorn, the Nightmare Monsters, Access Code was just reprinted recently. They're all really budget options, but to be honest with you guys, the only cards that you really, really need for the extra deck is the copies of the Mizan, Yaganamoru, Boral Sword, and your copy of Cross Sheep with the 2 Ninja Saizos. That's really all you need. You really don't need Access Code, Nightmare Unicorn, or the other Nightmare Monsters, or even Baguska. These are just really good options for you guys if you want to play those. I just wanted to give you guys a full extra deck, which you guys will see in the next deck, or next few decks, that you really don't need an extra deck for some of these. So for the next deck, guys, we actually have Floowandereeze, and this is what I'm talking about when I say that you can actually pick up a meta deck. This deck has been successful for a very, very long time in the meta. It's completely unhit on the list, which is insane, but this deck is a one-card combo deck that basically, for this deck, if you're unfamiliar with Floowandereeze, this deck actually summons out your copy of Rabina. Rabina will search Eglin. Eglin will then search a copy of your Impin, and then you tribute your copy of your Bina and Impin on your side of the field to summon out your copy of Impin. And Impin is a walking floodgate, which is really cool because this card has a really insane ability. They did this card as tribute summon. You get to add a Floowandereeze spell or trap from your deck to your hand, which is always going to be your copy of Dreaming Town that you're grabbing off the copy of Impin. And then this card lets you immediately this effect resolves, normal summon a monster, which the majority of your different Floowandereeze monsters share that ability that you can normal summon an additional monster to your side of the field. And this also has the ability that when this card is tribute summoned in the monster card zone, your opponent cannot activate the effects of special summon monsters that they control in attack position, kind of sort of being like a walking skill drain to force your opponent to play in defense position and completely locking down link monsters. It also has the ability once per battle during damage calculation. If this card battles an opponent's monster, quick effect, you can actually banish a card from your hand, and then opponent's monster's current attack and defense become halved until the end of the turn, making it very difficult for your opponent to swing through your copy of N-Pin, which is really nice. We also have options like evenly matched in this deck, and Book of Moon actually goes really good in this deck, because if you normal summon out your copy of your Rabina, you can actually, or any of your Floowandereeze monsters for that matter, you can use your copy of Book of Moon to be able to flip them face down to dodge cards like Imperm and Veiler, which is really nice because the targeting fizzles because the card is now face down, which is really cool to be able to do. So this card actually helps out a lot. Pot of Duality, you don't special summon in this deck at all, so this card basically says reveal 3, add 1. Drawing off of Extravagance is really nice because this extra does not matter. You do not summon out of the extract with this deck at all because of the effects of your Floowandereeze monsters, because if this face-up card would leave the field, you banish instead, and you can only use the following effects this card once per turn, and you cannot special summon during the turn you activate the effects of any of your Floowandereeze little birds in the deck, which is your copy of Rabina, Eaglin, Stria, and your copy of Toucan. All of these make it so that you cannot special summon that turn, which is totally fine, makes it more budget for us because we don't need an extra deck. The only reason I'm playing an extra deck at all in this deck is because of cards like Extravagance. I kind of just threw 15 cards in the extra deck, which you can actually do with this deck. You can just throw 15 random cards in the extra deck and it works, which is really cool about this deck. But you also play board breakers like Dark Ruler No More and Evenly Match that can basically just turn your opponent's field off and then just banish their field. But this deck is ridiculously consistent with cards like Magnificent Map and the copies of Advent for Adventure, which is just insane. Plus, this deck can play Shifter. Come on, we can just drop this card and win games. So let's go ahead and move on to the next deck. So for the next deck, guys, we actually have Eldritch. Eldritch is insane. Eldritch is really good to be able to play because Eldritch is just a really trap heavy deck that has one of the coolest boss monsters ever, Eldritch the Golden Gucci Lord. This card is amazing. He basically is just an insane boss monster that's one of the most powerful zombies ever created. It lets you send this card and a spell or trap from your hand to the grave, and then target a card in the field and send it to the grave. And if this card is in your grave, you can send a spell or trap card that you control to the grave and add this card to your hand, then special summon a zombie monster from your hand. And if you do, until the end of the next turn, you gain 1,000 attack points, which you're always summoning this card. It comes out at 3,500 when you summon it back to your side of the field, but it's very easy to be able to make an Eldritch deck budget because a lot of the cards in this deck have been reprinted a bunch. Plus, you have a lot of really good options in the form of trap cards like Skill Drain, Solemn Judgment, Solemn Strike, even the copies of your Conquistador pop cards on the field. You have trap monsters in the form of your Conquistador and your copy of Huakero, which get bonus effects when your copy of Eldritch is on your side of the field, where your copy of Conquistador will let you actually pop a card on the field, and your copy of Huakero will banish a card from your opponent's graveyard. You have cards like Dogmatic Punishment because we don't care about the extra deck. Again, we don't really care about this extra deck at all. From here over, these are just options that you can play. For the Garua, the Elder Intinist, and the Tri-Brigade Arms, you play these for Dogmatic Punishment targets because you can send your copy of the Tri-Brigade Arms to the graveyard, and once you do, off the copy of Dogmatic Punishment, it allows you to send a copy of Garua, and so you're able to out a 3,500 attack point monster or less off Dogmatic Punishment, and then also draw a card because you'll send a copy of Garua as well, which is why I play the deck like this. You can also use Dogmatic Punishment to pop with an additional card with Elder Intinist. The monster you're attempting to pop is less than 2,500. You can just send your Elder Intinist, which will let you pop an additional card, so Dogmatic Punishment turns into a double pop. We have cards like Torrential Tribute, which is funny because your Eldritch lives through it because it can't be destroyed by card effects when it summons itself back to your side of the field, which is insane until the end of your opponent's turn. So you can flip a copy of Torrential just to board wipe. You can play cards like Lava Golem because it's ridiculously easy to out Lava Golem with your copy of Eldritch. You can play Floodgates in here, like Rivalry and Gozen, to be able to lock down your opponent by handing them a Lava Golem and then flipping a copy of Gozen or Rivalry if it's the only monster they have on the field. They really can't out it that easily, so that you can just basically lock them down. You have basically I Said No to Everything with Solemn Strike and Solemn Judgment. This deck is overall just fantastic and one of my favorite decks to be able to play overall for a budget deck because it's so easy to play. Plus you have cards like Lord of the Heavenly Prison, which I believe is the most expensive card in the deck at about $2. Everything else is like 5 cents to 10 cents. So this card is really good to be able to play in the deck. You could even get away with 2 copies if you needed to, but this card lets you reveal it in your hand, and it just protects your back row as long as it stays revealed in your hand, which is really, really good. But this deck is overall fantastic to be able to play because you have so many different options to be able to go into in this deck because of your copy of Eldritch the Golden Lord. This deck, again, extra deck doesn't really matter that much. You're basically just using Eldritch. You could play cards like Gustav Max if you wanted to, and Juggernaut Lieb, but they're a little bit more for the deck, so I wanted to make you guys a really budget deck just to show you a deck that can play more towards just the main deck like Eldritch and Floowandereeze to have a more budget friendly deck to be able to basically max out on the trap cards instead of the rest of the deck. So that's it for all the deck, guys. We have Eldritch, Floowandereeze, Ninjas, Trap Tricks, and Blackwings, which are all really good options for you guys. One of my favorite ones is actually to play Blackwings because you can summon out all sorts of awesome synchros to your side of the field, but Eldritch is a really good option to be able to play as well. But if you're looking for a meta contender deck out of all of these decks, Floowandereeze is going to be your best bet because it is a really awesome, strong deck to be able to play. So definitely tell me down below what your favorite budget deck is to be able to play in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because right now Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a little bit expensive, so I wanted to help you guys out and show you some more budget options. If you like this video, definitely comment down below and let me know so I know to make more videos just like this. I wanted to show you guys the deck lists as well because I always hear, where's the deck list? But I wanted to show you guys the deck lists for these to give you a real idea of what a budget deck is going to look like for these budget decks instead of just saying, hey, Blackwings are budget. No, we need to actually show you guys a list of what it looks like so you can see what to pick up for this particular deck because it makes it so much easier for you guys to visualize the deck and see what kind of staples are budget as well. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. And definitely check out the combos on the channel for these particular decks. I do have Blackwing combos, Ninja combos, Eldritch test hands on the channel, and much more that you guys can use to be able to learn these decks. I even have Floowandereeze combos. So we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.